We're now getting to the last half hour of the show. I'm going to finish up my coffee here, switch over to water, and who wants to talk about Pixel Fold? Someone using a Pixel Fold for a whole weekend. So now I'm ready to do my first impressions, my unboxing, my setup video, comparisons with all the other foldables, my full review, my long-term review, my is it worth it video, what Google got wrong after the buzz. So I've had it for like, over 48 hours. So we can do all of that now, because that's how tech reviewing works. Simon says, Hypno, 3 days later, I was wrong about the Pixel Fold. First of all, again, I put it into the show notes for this week, but I also have to say it on camera too, because the FTC guidelines have been getting a little stricter. This coverage of Pixel Fold and Pixel Tablet is brought to you in part thanks to the Team Pixel crew, #gift from Google, where they have supplied these devices for my earnest review, and no one from Google or any associated public relations team has had any influence, input, or has asked for any concessions to my traditional review process. There's your full disclaimer, talking directly to you through the camera. Hey, look at this. Here's my Microsoft Surface Duo and my Pixel 7 Pro and this little beauty right here. That's the Pixel Fold. And Ted is asking, does larger size mean better thermal management? And you know, Ted, I have a great article on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy that also looks at the performance of this, which is the Pixel Tablet, which has a Tensor G2, the Pixel Fold, which has a Tensor G2, and the Pixel 7 Pro, which has a Tensor G2. The results of my real-world app performance measurements between all three of those devices might surprise you. Looking at the Pixel Fold, I am immediately validated. I have been a longtime fan of the Surface Duo. What Microsoft has brought to the table, even though I flung this Surface Duo onto my desk just a couple minutes ago, adding a hinge, they got so much tablet-y stuff right. And this is one of the immediate things that I adore on Pixel Fold. Pixel Fold manages to improve the overall form factor that we see from the Surface Duo. It's a little thinner, it's a little sleeker, it's not quite so blocky or chunky. The bezels are just a bit more manageable for anyone who really cares about bezels. Pixel Fold replicates that while also kind of bringing this to a slightly sleeker look. These bezels are functional and practical, and you want them when you're holding such a fragile and such an expensive device. I'm sure if you've been keeping up with some of the coverage on some of these different devices, you've probably seen some reviewer go, oh, it's just really nice because it's more of a little book-like form factor. You know what this is like? It's like a digital Moleskine. Like a little notebook that you can hold like a little book, and it's more book-like than a Z Fold. And I think that's really handy. Nerds like us Duo fans have been talking about that for a while. I have a video. I'm doing the original Surface Duo setup. Sam and Matt, they used to do a podcast called Across the Pondcast, but now Sam is doing the Nomad Tech project with Purposely Pixel team. And we were talking like, oh yeah, I like that this is a little broader, it's a little squarer. This feels to me kind of like a BlackBerry. If you remember a BlackBerry Classic, it was to have like a little book and like a little pen that I'm throwing into the screen. I'm really bad with my hand choreography this week. And every time I would bring up why I liked the form factor on the Duo, I'd have a whole bunch of Samsung nights going, nuh-uh, you're just a Samsung hater. You don't really like it. You just bag on Samsung for no reason. And now we've got a bunch of techies going, hey, guys, it's kind of nice to have sort of a broader outer display. It's a little bit more functional to kind of use this than the skinny, really awkward strip of screen on the Z Fold. And then you open it and it's already into the landscape, more tablet-y orientation. And I don't have to immediately turn it 90 degrees just to do stuff. So the Pixel Fold helps completely validate I was right all along. Everybody else on the internet was wrong but me. So Go Starscream, is it the Surface Duo killer? I very much enjoy how similar some of these experiences are just in terms of pure hardware. Single panel on the Duo feels a bit more like going on the outer display for the Pixel Fold. I really wish Google had copied more of what Microsoft was doing with the Surface. I'm getting really deep into the weeds here on something that's not completely fleshed out in my brain. Pixel Fold gets so much more of the Android-y stuff right because Google can give themselves first crack at Android 13 and Android 14, and the Duo is still a heavily customized build of Android 12L. But one of the reasons why this is so far behind in terms of just software number, it's already doing things that the Fold, it's really clumsy. So I wanna pull this up here. So we wanna do some social media. I wanna open Instagram. Oh, that's my buddy Adam Bobrow. He's an amazing tabletop player and he's a really funny voice actor too. I worked with him for years. He's a really cool guy. Immediately took one whole panel for Instagram and now I have a whole separate panel to do something else. The split screen multitasking experience on a Microsoft product is the most tablet version that you can have. And it gestures in a much more familiar way. No software is intuitive. There is no such thing as intuitive software. But when you pull it and slide it, it moves. And then you pull it and slide it and it moves. It is so aware of its hardware, it's beautiful. I don't have Instagram up on my home screen, but now on the Pixel Fold, I'm gonna open up Instagram and it gives us this right down the center of the crease, kind of awkward presentation. The very first time you open up one of these phone apps, you get these little pop-ups. This is the only moment of conveyance that you get it, is like the first time that you launch it. It tells you, oh, well, you can double tap to move the app between. But this isn't really very familiar. And on the Duo, this is doing what Windows 11 can do with sliding apps around. Like Windows 11 is now really good at pulling a window and then moving it to different orientations on your screen. And we kind of get a better view on the Duo. And I really need to go into my settings on the Pixel Fold and change up my pixel density. I need to make my font smaller. Okay, so I double tap. That's so weird to me. It's right in the middle, right on the crease. If I have do I have orientation on? If I change the orientation, it does that. It gives me a little bit more of the view, not a lot more. It's not really utilizing the screen very well. And there's nothing I can do now. Now double taps don't mean anything. How are we supposed to know? We just have to memorize a phone app that doesn't have a very good tablet translation, does these things in certain orientations and not in others. Microsoft is better at gestures. Oh, whoops, I don't want to accidentally get audio or music playing. So Microsoft gives us a gesture where if we touch both panels, it converts to that single column view. Look at how much more information we're really getting on the Duo. So even though there's this gap in between the two panels and the display right here in the middle, I actually do have kind of a better Instagram viewing experience. Microsoft is pulling this into a more traditional vertical view. I actually have less information in a narrower column here on the Fold. So it's these little things like there's so much of the Android experience on the Fold that is better. It's sleeker, it's better animated. When you do some of the more traditional Android-y gestures for getting into how you multitask, this stuff is more accessible and it's more familiar if you've used a traditional slate phone. But there are so many good ideas from the Microsoft team. I think Microsoft knows how to make a better tablet than Google does. And Google's getting up to speed, and a lot of these improvements are very encouraging. I need to find an app that won't give up like all of my personal information here. Hold on. Let's try FX File Explorer. So FX File Explorer knows to use the whole display. So now there's no double tap, right? So double tap only applies for an app that forces you into a narrow column. So now you have to swipe up and then tap this little split. So now we have two different methods based on apps for trying to do side-by-side split screening. Whereas on the Duo, anything that you launch on one panel stays on that panel. But not all of these little nuances do what you think they should do. I don't think they've nailed all of the different tablet metaphors that we'd want to see on a mini tablet, where I think Microsoft did a much better job of addressing some of those more advanced uses. This is not a very good Android phone. This is a very poor Android phone, but it's a pretty good Surface. It's a pretty good Microsoft tablet. And this is where the Pixel tablet, I mean, the Pixel Fold really needs to catch up, and where Google really needs to catch up on some of that tablet use, Android 13 is an excellent step in the right direction. Yeah, awesome possum. The Pixel Fold is smaller than I think a lot of us were expecting. The overall surface area, the screen is pretty close to the surface area of the Surface. That is really encouraging. This manufacturing has scaled so aggressively for making one of these little bendy plastic screens. From Raj, serious question, how close are we to sliding the window boundary between two side-by-side apps similar to what we can do in Windows? This is actually something that the Fold does pretty well. So on the Duo, we really don't want to resize. It's panel or panel, and that's really all you get. And so if we want, we can drag that little handle, and we do get an alternate view if we want Instagram to be a narrower column. Hilariously, it makes it a narrower column and you still see less on the screen. Instagram really hates Android. And if this were a Sony Xperia, I would see a lot more on my screen on a Sony Xperia. But Instagram on this thing is like, nah, drives me crazy. And we can do the opposite. We can slide the handle the other way, and that works really, really well. So that is something, again, that Android 13 is doing better than Android 12L. I'll throw like Discord into a little column sometimes if I have like my browser up and I want Discord up at the same time. That's kind of nice just to have like kind of a ticker feed of what's going on and I can see what's happening in my chat. But most of the time I want the separation between the apps on the crease. And that's where I keep saying this is functionally better for my needs than if this were a Z Fold. Because on a Z Fold, the crease would be running this way. And then you would see the warping of the plastic right through the middle of every single app you use. We can give Oppo some credit for that form factor too. Absolutely. From Raj, how good are the speakers? I'll be doing some tests and I'll be showing that off in some of the reviews. The speakers are pretty good. Simon says, Hypno, Surface needs a do-over. Nailed it. Simon says, Hypno, the Duo is amazing for ebook reading and it handles things like comics a little bit more gracefully. This is not a fair comparison for the Fold because I have not done enough work in trying to get this working. So here's the Amazon Comics app and I have Superman Red Sun and it's the same. Like I have this really awkward panel that can shift side to side, but it wants to be in the middle of the Duo's, in the middle of the Fold's screen, and it's not even like really in the middle. It's like kind of offset. It looks really weird. So this is a problem with Amazon. This is not a problem with the Fold, in my opinion, but it doesn't reformat it. And so you don't get that really great kind of book experience. So it's not really fair to point this out on the Fold. I think this is a problem with app developers. Let me take another drink of water and we can start closing the show up because we ran crazy long. Huzzah! Yeah, Roth, I'm sorry. Hashtag don't say G out loud. But it's so hard to have these conversations and not talk about the manufacturers that make all of these products.